I'm Turner on ALB UK Television and positivebritain.co.uk. This is the voice of London. And now we're going to hear the voice and hopefully the image of Sian Young, who is an international coach, author and speaker. Hello.
Hello.
We're talking to one another. Oh,
Yes,
joy,
brilliant.
joy, joy.
Brilliant.
Thank you for
We got
appearing on
here.
the show this afternoon. First of all, I really just want to get your views and your experience, because you're a mother on one hand, but you're an international mentor and coach and a very famous business mentor as well, working for a lot of large companies, CEOs in particular. So at the moment, I see Britain in disarray, but I see a lot of fear in business as well. So what would be your advice to families, to mothers, for example, and what would be your advice to business people at the same time of how to get through such a traumatic period like this?
Well, first of all, I would admit that you're human, and I would address the fear, because you're getting in fear every single day will not change the situation that is going on. You have no control over the situation. All you have control over is how you deal with it and how you deal with yourself. So first of all is fear. Stop the fear, because you can't think clear if you're in a state of fear. You act erratically, you overwork, you put your mind through so much stress that you can't actually even work productively or you make mistakes. You know, you're not as efficient. So if you don't deal with the fear right now, that is when you're going to find it even harder to find the opportunities that are there. And there are opportunities out there, which we just had a little chat about anyway. And I know other businesses who have had to completely change their approach, but because they've chosen not to go into the fear, they've been able to do that. And so I'm going to tell you a quick thing that I use for fear. Okay, it's called a 7-11 breath, right? So you just breathe in and in your mind count to 7. And when you breathe out, count to 11. Now, this is a breath that is used to disengage the primordial fight or flight in your brain. So it brings you back through your emotional brain into your logical brain. So every time you start to feel that fear coming over and you start to notice that you're operating from a place of fear, you need to stop that. You need to take a breath, have a glass of water, and do 5 minutes breathing, 7 in, 11 out. Okay? I've used that before I get on a stage to speak in front of lots of people. I've used that before I go on a program, a TV, because I want access to my intelligence, because I want to share with you the best that I can share with you. And that's what you need to do just now. That's my first technique, is you've got to get out of the fear. Okay?
Now, when I look back at your history, you know, your upbringing, you were homeless for many years. You wrote a book called Teenage Kicks. Did you face fear at that time yourself and overcome it?
Yes. And this is where my knowledge doesn't only come from the qualifications I got. It's come from a young girl on the streets for 7 years. You know, the fear was in my every single muscle. And I couldn't change the life I was living at that point in time. And so I learned to deal with fear. But off the streets, I was diagnosed with PTSD because of the trauma of the streets. So that's again where learning to disengage that fear that comes from a place where it's what you think might happen, or it's what you've been through. It's not the reality right now. And so having that experience in my life has given me many gifts. And one of them is to understand fear right to the core of my being and know how to get to where I am now and how to step out in life. And they say feel the fear and do it anyway. I say calm the fear, calm the mind, and then do it, and do it with clarity.
And do you agree with me as well to reach out to people, to reach out for help? Because I see in your biography you got help from the Princess Royal, you got a scholarship, and you reached out for help. And for me, I went through troubled times myself, and I think the reality was that I only really came back to life and became successful when I reached out for help. What do you think?
Yeah, and funny you should mention that just now, because I'm actually training for a marathon, and
Are you?
I'm raising money for Samaritans, because Samaritans were some people that I reached out to all the time throughout my journey. I mean, sometimes it got so bad that I was in a high rise, single mother, locked in the house, no prospects, no education, because I'd been on the streets for years. And so I had the trauma of street life coming up, and I had the fear of never going to make it or do anything there. And I reached out. I reached out, like you said, to Buckingham Palace and got a scholarship to study water sports. I actually reached out to 200 charities and trusts before that time that I reached out to the palace. That was my last hurrah, as it were. And I reach out all the time. I now reach out in a different way. I have coaches now that I finely tune when I come up against something that seems to be a block. I immediately reach out and I get coaching. So always reach out, because you can't see your blind spots.
I think that's quite true. And when I look again, I have this full A4 sheet of paper, and it's full of notes about you. My goodness me, I thought I'd lived a life, but your life is quite astounding, to sort of say the least, at the same time. So you created, is it Paul Fitness Studio, a well-being and fitness program, and you had over 5,000 women involved in it.
Yeah.
How did that start?
Well, as I said, I reached out to Buckingham Palace and asked for a scholarship for a water sports academy. And I lived in Scotland at the time. I got the scholarship and it was in Australia. So I travelled there and I enjoyed becoming a qualified powerboat instructor, windsurfing instructor. I came back to Scotland and it was freezing. So I was like, oh, mistake. But to raise money to do that, I had worked in pole dancing bars. So that's how I raised money for, because I was a single mother, for childcare costs when I was traveling and studying. And when I came back to Scotland, I thought, I can instruct and I can pole dance. What do I do? So I built a pole fitness studio. And yeah, we had over 7 years we won 2 awards for excellence. And we had 5,000 women come through that studio and 6 instructors. So you never know, what the gifts you've got and where the journey will take you if you just take that next step.
And you also have a sustainable success project called the Shore Model. Tell me about the Shore Model.
Well, over the years of recovery that I've taken, and watching all these women as well in my studio, and I started to see there was a few things that I'd done as of normal pattern in order to achieve change. And so this is what I now call the sustainable health and well-being model. It's the SHORE model. It's 5 steps that you take to make transformational change in your life, and change that stays. It's not faddy. It's really grounded change. And so the first step is to learn. I mean, there's no point rushing ahead with something until you know where you want to go, why you want to go there, where are you now? What do you need to get there? So the learn part is all about learning you and being okay with whatever comes up. It's completely not judgmental. And then basically you move into developing a plan. So you've learned everything. You learn and you develop a plan knowing what resources you're going to need to achieve your aim. And then you go into implementing the plan. So that's all fun, doing it, everything that you've prepared, you really get to live it and feel it. And then you start to optimize as the next step. So you start to see, right, this didn't work. And it's no judgment. It didn't work because of this and bad negative stuff that people always tell themselves. No, it didn't work because it just didn't fit with you. And that's okay. So then you optimize it. You say, well, that didn't work. That worked really well. So I'm going to do more of that and get rid of that. And then you go into sustaining the change by celebrating your achievements. And so many people just keep working so hard and never celebrate the achievements that they've made. And that's how you become sustainable change, because your mind likes it, because you're saying, well done. And then you go back to the beginning of the model. Anytime you want to make a change, you follow this process. So this is my methodology in my business. This is how I transform people's well-being in a sustainable way.
What do you think gives you the ability, that the fight sometimes personally, what was the transition? You know, because I know what it's like to be homeless. I get that. For me, I went on a different journey afterwards, but I wonder what your journey was, because I'm fascinated what's turned your life around. What would you say were the catalysts?
Well, one catalyst I like to share is that somebody just gave me a cup of chamomile tea and told me that it was wrong, what I was living. You know, and I share this because if you feel that you're not in a position to help someone, if you can make a cup of tea and just listen to them, you've helped them, right? So everybody has a chance to be a catalyst, and most people don't know when they are a catalyst in someone's life. So there was that, and there was also an old friend from school let me stay at their house and sort of taught me what life was really like. And then I just kept, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher will come. I absolutely believe that, because I was ready to get off the streets and I met the right people to help me do that. I was ready to up level my life again and I met the right people to do that. And it is about who you hang with, who you surround yourself with, and who you allow to inspire you. So that's how I get out, is just different inspirations all along. But it did actually start with a cup of tea, igniting my soul again and making me feel like I could live.
And I totally get with that as well, because I think it's just human kindness. For me, I got surrounded in love by women who brought me back to life after a period I went through in my life. So it's that sort of cup of human kindness that comes in different ways, but actually allows you to see yourself once more and discover yourself once more.
And also that cup of kindness, remember to give it to yourself. And all these people we were talking about that are really stressed, and just stop. When did you last give yourself that cup of kindness? When did you last say, my God, this is really challenging times and you're doing so well. Why don't you stop and have a cup of tea? You know, so it does go for other people, but it goes for you, to yourself as well. Be
Absolutely.
kind to yourself.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So would you say that the Shaw
Oh,
model,
nice.
is it one method, and quite an important method, for Britain to become more successful again? Because I think at the moment Britain needs as many ideas as possible next year to actually see a future for themselves.
Yeah. So I have the Shaw model and I use it for the human. Okay. But my partner and I are just setting up a sustainable action center, which is for small to medium businesses and entrepreneurs. And in there, he's a sustainable strategist. We're teaching them how to build sustainability into your business. And then I am bringing in the health and the human. And business needs to be like that. We need to realize that we're human running the businesses. And if you burn out, your business dies. If you can't cope, you have no business. And we need to run business more sustainable. And I do believe there's a lot of SMEs in the UK that's where their heart is. So we are building a centre to bring people together, you know, businesses together, so that we can become a louder, stronger voice in what actually most people want in the UK, which is a more sustainable future.
I totally agree, and I know you've got your own blog, My Tiny Footprints, and that's interesting. You do so much. I mean, I could talk to you all afternoon. You're fascinating. So, the reality for me is, I think you're quite right. I think the future, and the I don't have fear in my life at all. I don't allow fear in my life is the reality, but I fear for others. And I fear especially for 16 to 24-year-olds. What do you think is the answer for them?
I think that what we need to do is we need to surround our young adults more. You know, from being a woman who was on the streets as a teenager to having a 17-year-old son who has experienced a lot in his small, short life, and then a 22-year-old boy who's, you know, doing straight A's at uni as well, who's been surrounded. We need to surround teenagers with love. We need to stop expecting them to be more grown than they are. We need to listen to them more. And this is an article I have done online as well, where lockdown has given us a chance, if we take it, to find that space to listen to our young adults, because they're very smart. And I don't know the bad rep that they've got, because everyone that I meet, I get on brilliant with, and they're absolutely lovely. And I think that it's hard for a young adult to have aspirations for the future if the adults in their life are down and shrouded with fear and negativity and always kind of dissing on the young people like they're supposed to be something they're not ready to be yet because they're still growing and maturing. So I think it's actually the adults around them's responsibility to mentor them and support them, because they are our future and they're amazing. I've seen mentored and supported young adults. Like my stepson is about to be signed up for an athletic scholarship in the US. My son has just set up a tech business, you know, and that's with the right mentorship and support for a young adult. There is their ability for them to really make a good life, because even though a lot of old stuff is dying, there is a lot of new stuff there. And especially like we can chat, you know, in different spaces, you know, and that opens the world to young people. We just need to support them more, I think.
What would you say is your hope for next year?
My hope is something that you're managing, is that people keep the fear out, because if you operate on fear, you are going to get more fear, you know, and we have to turn this boat around. My hope is that people realize that living sustainably is a lot less stressful than massive consumption. You know, living with a less toxic environment is a lot less stressful because you're not sick all the time. You know, you can do more, you have more energy. So I really hope that the work I do and many other people are doing in this area really does crack through, like health and well-being. You saw I'm a brand ambassador for the UK Health Coaching Association. Now that's health coaches who are right there. We're ready to help the UK become healthy, because when your immune system and your body and your mind are sound and strong, you make sound decisions and you can take the opportunities and see the opportunities that are there. So I really hope for a much more healthy and sustainable way forward when we step into the new year.
Well, thank you for that, and that's a great message. Unfortunately, time is caught up with us again, as always. How can people get in contact with you? Can you just tell people how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, I know you can see on the screen my name, Shan Young. My website is shanyoung.com. And also my LinkedIn is Shan Young. So come over and join me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. So just any of them, just follow my name.
Shan Young, you're fabulous.
Thank you. Did I bring you some joy today?
Coming to the studio, please God that we allowed people back into the studio next year. It's great talking to you. So thank you so much for your time today. It has been so invaluable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time as well. I'm really happy to have met you, and I'm loving the big yellow jumper. Sunlight and joy.
Absolutely, I try. Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Well, that puts a different complexion on today's show. I hope the reality is right now is we need as much happiness, positivity, support that we can get in this country. I really, think that we have a great future still, provided we support each other and reach out to each other as well. So that's the first show of this week. So